Hello, good afternoon. I'm KHOU 11 meteorologist Chris Ramirez. Here's a look at our tropics update. We are tracking Hurricane Melissa. It is a powerful hurricane currently approaching the island of Jamaica. Winds at 140 miles an hour, moving very slow, only moving west at 3 miles an hour with pressure at 953 millibars. You're able to see that distinct eye that's in the center of that storm as it's nearing the island of Jamaica. They're already seeing the outer rain bands of the hurricane moving into Kingston. And so as we look at the forecasted track, this is expected to continue strengthening into a Category 5 hurricane just prior to landfall in Jamaica. And so we could expect to see this eventually make landfall as a Category 4 hurricane within the next maybe 24 to 48 hours. And eventually it's going to veer off towards the northeast over eastern Cuba, over the islands of the Caribbean, and then eventually off over the open Atlantic, eventually coming into contact with cooler waters and weakening as we head into the next 2 to 3 days. And so as we look at that hurricane structure, it's the eastern portions of that eye that is the most strongest when it comes to an approaching hurricanes. You have high winds, possible tornado risk, storm surge, and flooding. When it comes to that, as we look at the forecast wind gusts, we could see those winds starting to peak at 118 miles an hour in Bull Savannah, as well as it continuing to move across the island, eventually bringing 100-mile or more higher winds off in Kingston, Jamaica. So they're in for a pretty wild ride within the next 24 to 48 hours. And this system is going to stick around probably for a good 2 to 3 days as that slow movement is going to eventually take it into eastern Cuba. So they're eventually going to see those hurricane force winds in Cuba by Tuesday afternoon. And so we are expecting it to also bring some widespread heavy rain with this system as well. Close to 3 feet of rain accumulations with this storm as it makes its way over the Caribbean islands. And so as we look at that rain potential, 13.7 inches of rain out in Kingston, over 10 inches of rain in Santiago de Cuba, even portions of the island of Hispaniola likely to see 13.5 inches of accumulated rainfall as this system is moving pretty slowly within the next 24 to 48 hours. And so when you look at the hurricane winds, this is the Saffir-Simpson wind scale, and this is where they categorize each hurricanes. We're looking at 130 to 156 mile an hour winds with this storm. And so that is consistent of devastating damage. However, there is a good chance that the storm will strengthen into a Category 5 hurricane, which is at 157 miles per hour or more. And that's catastrophic damage, especially as they are definitely expecting that in the next maybe 24 to 48 hours across the Caribbean and in Jamaica. But looking at the peak of hurricane season, we're already well past that. We are ending our hurricane season with a Category 4 hurricane out in the Caribbean, and we're definitely expecting that to continue its track into our area. And so if you're just now joining us, we are tracking what is now Hurricane Melissa. The latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center does have this storm very well, showing winds at 140 miles an hour, moving west at 3 miles an hour. And so that's a very slow movement with this system as it's making its way closer to Jamaica, and it's eventually the center of that eye likely to cross the island as we head into Monday evening. And so this could stick around for a couple of days, and so folks that are in that region are going to be in for a pretty long duration storm as the storm is going to start veering off towards the northeast as we head into Monday and into Tuesday, and then eventually into Cuba over the near Turks and Caicos, as well as it moving over the open Atlantic in the coming days. And so we have these series of cold fronts that have been moving over the U.S., and that is going to keep this system away from the U.S. and southeast Texas. But they're still enduring a pretty powerful hurricane out in the Caribbean. And as always, as portions of the more populated areas of Jamaica are likely to see more of those stronger force winds, tornado, and the more higher storm surge, which is ultimately could lead to life-threatening flooding in that region. And so that's what we are looking at as of now. And as far as those wind gusts, they are going to be seeing 100 mile per hour or more higher winds out in the island of Jamaica as we head into the next 24 to 48 hours. And so we're looking at that, and we are tracking this system as it's going to be bringing widespread torrential rain across the Caribbean as it's now a Category 4 hurricane with 130 to 156 mile per hour winds that is very well consistent of devastating damage across Jamaica, and potentially into Cuba as well. And so this is a look at our 2025 Atlantic Basin names. We've already crossed off Melissa. We have not really gotten through the rest of those names, and so it's been a pretty quiet hurricane season this far, but we are expecting this to continue, and it's very well common to still see storms in the months of October, and it is very well possible to see storms in the months of November as well. So we're tracking the latest, and that's the latest on Melissa as it bears down on Jamaica, and we will be giving you the latest up-to-date forecasts and updates as we see fit as we head into the next couple of days. I'm meteorologist Chris Ramirez with your Tropics Update.